were saying, Chris, last week that, you know, in effect, you thought this was going to happen. He'd be back. I mean, it's fascinating to see it all, but I mean, it's almost a bit uncomfortable, isn't it? But I guess this was almost the inevitable outcome, wasn't it?
Yeah, after the suspension, the reinstatement, the big return, I'm not sure what people really expected last night. He was never going to go on a soapbox and make another big speech. Although, you know, a bit like Match of the Day a week ago, the figures went up. I think it was the same last night because people wanted to see what he had to say. And I couldn't believe, well, I could believe actually how low key it was. I even felt they all looked a little bit sheepish in the studio there. When the first thing he said was he was out of vision. It was very low key. Here's the match we're covering tonight: Man City versus Burnley. And almost immediately, it was one of his colleagues, Alan Shearer, who addressed the situation, saying how upset they were that they couldn't broadcast last week, and some of the people who couldn't go into work because effectively they didn't want to cross the picket line. After all, everybody came out in support of Lineker. So it was a big deflection, really, and Gary Lineker sort of sat there rather quietly and let Shearer have his speech. And the gist of it was, you know, it was good to be back to some kind of normality, but it was a bit odd. In cricketing parlance, I think you'd say it was a kind of straight bat, a forward defensive, a deflection of the subjects, and they got on with the job, basically.
And where do you think we go from here, Chris? Because it was really interesting. I mean, first of all, how quickly this was all dealt with. And by Monday, Gary Lineker was welcomed back into the fold, and we were told there was going to be an independent review into the social media policy. But straight away after that news that a deal had been broken between the BBC and Gary Lineker, he tweeted again his thoughts about the migrant policy, and he said that, you know, we remain a country of predominantly tolerant, welcoming and generous people. He tweeted that almost directly, kind of standing by the comments that led to this row in the first place. So do you think Gary Lineker will continue to tweet freely, or do you think he will play it safe now?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and I think a bit of both. He certainly won't stop tweeting. He did tweet last night. I mean, it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I thought. Are the joys to be of being allowed to stick to football, which may be referred to when he had to go on the TV and talk about Qatar. Because he does separate his tweeting from his appearances on television. Let's be fair about that. He doesn't talk politics on the television, and didn't last night. I mean, he just wanted to get on with the job. But, you know, it just seems to him that, you know, it is the Twitter side is very separate to the television side. Not everyone agrees with that, so I think he will continue. But also, I think he has lost a bit of ground this week, in so much as if you see the responses he gets now on Twitter after what happened last weekend, he's getting a lot more criticism as well. So I think opinion is divided. Who's been the winners here? I mean, the BBC lost out because they backed down. They had to, because everyone came out in support of Lineker. Lineker got the job he wanted to continue. The BBC got the man they wanted to continue doing Match of the Day. So I think they both lost out a little bit, really. And what happens in the future? It's been a bit of a fudge, really, hasn't it? I think Gary's lost a little bit of respect from some people, but he's still there, and he still remains a popular figure.